silly about serious shit. And we got to start being more. We got to start being most serious about being the smartest, the most intelligent in the room, not to show off, but to become the best goddamn weapon we can become for our position.
Woo, woo. Hey, thank you so much, brother Moko. You still there? You still with us? Yeah, we lost you in the Matrix. We got you now. We got you now.
Oh yeah, well, I was just gonna land real quick. Yeah, we are the only protection between our.
Yeah, it's breaking up. It's breaking up. Okay. Yeah, it's breaking up. It's breaking up. I don't know if I'm the only one that can't hear.
I keep getting a phone call, but I'm gonna just land here. We the only protection between our enemies and our children. Okay, we the only protection that's there for our children between them and our enemies. If we fail them when we need them to protect us, they're not going to be there. Okay, 100% of us will be in a motherfucking nursing home with them Africans spitting on us saying, "Nakata, fucking wipe your own ass." And I land there.
Thank you, Mo.
Ooh, facts. Facts. Man, shout out. Appreciate you bringing the energy in the space tonight. We got Jake is up next.
Peace and blessings to the family that's in the room. The host, the co-host.
Hey, Jake.
What happened?
I said hello, Jake.
Hey, how you doing? Peace, Queen. But yeah, the main thing that we got to keep in mind is that we are at war, and we've been at war for 500 plus years. So us being at war, we're winning. Keep in mind, we're winning. The white supremacy is going crazy. They're using everything against us, even weaponizing foreigners against us. But we're still winning, and our message is getting out. There's no one from the diaspora or around the planet that could match to our greatness and what we produced in the world. And to keep our greatness in our purity as our own people, as everybody else, we're going to have to delineate and keep our culture in order not to be ethnocide. There have been so many lineages, so many tribes, so many nations that's not here no longer. And if we don't unite and gatekeep our culture, we will be embraced as well, and everybody will be saying our accomplishments is their accomplishments. And I'll end there.
Amen to that. Agreed. So the title of the space is about personal agendas and organizational agendas, and me as a Twitter poster, just noticing that there seems to have been just individuals and organizations seemingly wanting to put their agendas above all of Black America. And for me, I'm all about uplifting all of Black America, every last single one of us, regardless of the name that's on the door. All of us. And
what you mean by all of us? As far as what you talking about? Even ones that's not from our struggle, not from the slavery here in North America.
No. Why would I say that, or why would I infer that?
I'm just saying when you say all of us, because I was just in the space and I had to check people, because now they're saying, as a race, we're Black people. However, if I'm born in America, that makes me a Black American too.
Okay. I'm glad. You know what? This gives me an opportunity to read what I was going to say at the OMB. Since Miss Rella got the honor of being the last one, and I didn't get a chance to get on the line. Shout out to Miss Rella.
I did it for you, boo. I did it for you.
So I'm gonna read it. You know, they give you 2 minutes, so hopefully I don't go over my 2 minutes. But yeah, this will be pretty good for this particular moment in time. So I said I was going to say thank you for your extremely important work in bringing delineation and disaggregation of data, which will produce justice for all involuntary non-immigrant Black Americans. My family has been recategorized under every historical designation encapsulated within our massive Black American family tree. First, I ask that you completely eliminate the term African American from all documents. Next, I suggest the creation of two separate and distinct categories. The first one being African diaspora. The African diaspora category for voluntary foreign immigrants with subcategories to identify their country of origin with no choice for the term Black or any other historical designation that is unique to involuntary non-immigrant Black Americans. Black American descendants would be the next category. Black American descendant category with boxes that can be checked for all historical designations. These designations become subcategories under this all-encompassing category specifically for Black American descendants with the lineage of our ancestors who suffered and survived enslavement under colonial, U.S. state, and U.S. federal law. The African diaspora category should be completely separated from the Black American descendant category on all forms by placing other non-Black classifications in between these two disaggregated categories to remove any confusion or errors by anyone when filling out these important forms. Most importantly, I thank you for securing all historical designations and classifications for involuntary non-immigrant Black American descendants and separating African diaspora voluntary immigrants from any and all categories that have nothing to do with involuntary non-immigrant Black Americans. We cannot allow the erasure of Black American history by erasing historical terms and designations. Every historical term is relevant and critical to our nation and must be preserved. Lastly, I do not belong to any organization or group. I advocate strictly for Black Americans who share a distinct lineage with involuntary enslaved non-immigrant Black human beings. Didn't get the chance to say it. I hope that answers the question. I believe Art is next.
Yeah. I think the key issue that I see that we overlook is that people have a separate perceptions of what will and won't work and what is or is not uplifting Black America. I think the only universal thing that I would argue, even is self-preservation that I heard that was everybody is probably self-preserving here to some degree. So that's the only universal factor. The rest of the factors are all up for grabs. Like, how do we get reparations? Guaranteed, if you ask people, we're going to get separate answers. Maybe one or two people agree, and then you're going to get separate answers from that point. So, like, until we can get to some kind of, like, point on that, or even looking at past people, like that question I asked, man, nobody gives me a group of people that didn't lobby and got reparations, for example. So should we not be lobbying? You know what I mean? Like, look, can we even get that part like agreed upon? That's my thing, is that we expect some kind of universality, but we don't look for the universality of which we can come to some kind of agreement. And I know Dave's been waiting for a while, so I'm going to land it there and wait for the hands to go down. Oh, yeah, one more thing with the...
Wait, I have a question to ask you before you go on. So when John Conyers met in 2000 and when they had the round table in Congress, and you had all the groups, all the Black groups, even the Pan-African groups, like was there and some other groups, and it's on C-SPAN. And he talked about the lobbying of reparations. Does that not count?
I mean, it never turned into a group, though.
It never came to fruition because, of course, he got sick. But my point is to you is that I think that we can do all the things. We have to get to a point where doing all the things that we need to do and the time it needs to be done, when and what needs to be done, we should all be able to come to that consensus in the same chapter. We don't have to always be like, well, if you ain't calling yourself freedman or Negro, we ain't want to hear what you got to say. Why is it we should be able to take your consideration, your comment and what you have found and try to apply it and then add it to what we have to do. And then where does that actually go so that we can make something happen?
I get the context even in this conversation. Rivy was like reparations should be secondary to immigration, and that's fine. And that's fine if you're a voter, right? But if you're a non-voter, you just want your fucking reparations. And
right, but he's not wrong in the sense of people who do vote, because he's talking about in the area of policy.
You just proved my point. So you're already split, right? So there's 21 million voters and there's 12 million non-voters. So there's the voters, the 21 million is good for immigration, but the 12 million non-voters, they're probably going to be more for reparations. And so that's already split.
But listen to me. He mentioned his goal is to focus on immigration, right? That does not mean he's not going to be for reparations. He's just saying he wants to sit and fight with the people that's for immigration. I get what you're saying. Don't split your energy and your time, but some people can't do that. You can't force people.
No, I get that, but what I ultimately wanted to point out is that there's a four-way split there, right? You have non-voter versus voter, and then you might have a small amount of non-voters who care about immigration versus reparations, right? And then you could have voters vice versa, or you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a four-way split already, so you're literally split four ways.
Well,
and that's before we get into other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but does that mean we don't do either of them?
What you mean?
No, I'm not saying that, but I think that the idea of some kind of unification of a code, like. The only code I see is
I need to put this out there because, when we first started doing spaces, and I said this before, this is before everybody split up and Security Tribe fell off and started doing what they were doing. When I was holding spaces with Nas and I came up with the concept of getting on code, I was talking about history. I was talking about the information, and I was talking about the knowledge. People took that shit, and that's the one thing I will say. People took it and ran down the street and made it a weapon. That's not what I had actually brought that into spaces, the internet, to be used for. That's the only thing I regret.
Well, people didn't agree on what the code is, because that would be odd.
Because people decided with their adult self that it was going to be a weapon.
Everything is a weapon. Everything can be weaponized.
The thing that gets us to where we need to go in truth and righteousness and what we are uncovering. Not the code in you create some damn secret society and you oust all the peoples from the information because you don't like them. You don't like this person. You throwing up addresses and shit and you want people to come see about you. If you get harmed and you end up not being here, guess what? We're in trouble. Why do we want to even go down that rabbit hole? Why can't we stick to factual information, data, and we need to find a way to get our information categorized so that we all win?
Because again, it goes back. I think it goes back to a matter of perception. Like you're gonna get voters who are gonna literally say, "Oh well, if you're not doing voting or you're not doing this, you're not gonna get anything done."
But we're not even talking about. We're not even.
No, I'm just trying to show you that.
You're art, okay, because I know that you love the voter and non-voter.
Okay, I can go to lobbying. Okay, people agree on lobbying.
No. I was just all right. Slow down, baby. I'm not trying to over talk you and try to bypass what you're saying. I'm saying to you, we can recognize the non-voters, the voters, the people in between, the woman that sits on the steps when you go to vote. We can recognize all of that.
Yeah, but I think the part you're missing is that they're in conflict of each other. That's what I'm saying.
How are they in conflict?
Because for me, as a non-voter, I see the voters as opposition. I'm not going to lie. You're literally working with the people that owe me money. Like, what do you mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't. Well, then how do you?
You might feel that this the opposite. You might feel because I'm not doing that, I'm not going to go nowhere, and I'm going against the grain, and that's going to be.
No, I actually, you know what I feel. I feel, because I can speak for myself, I can feel that if you don't vote, there's a reason why you don't vote. And if you don't vote, then how do you expect to change and do something? Because I feel like if you're not going to vote, you must be active somewhere else.
Yeah, but I'm saying not everybody has your opinion, Rella. That's what I'm trying to say.
I know that.
I've been in other rooms where that's not the sentiment. That's what I'm getting.
All right, I know that. I understand that, but you have to psychologically have conversations where what you're saying starts to land for people who vote, so they understand that if you are going to be a non-voter, you want to be in a position where you get to vote for something that benefits you as a non-voter, because non-voters can eventually turn into voters when they feel like there's something for them to vote for. Is that true or not?
From my consensus of what non-voters are, they don't think the system's going to work. And I will literally get my ass beat by some people just mentioning it. I'm just saying. I'm just pointing this out.
Okay. All right. Did you land? Because I want to make sure before we go on.
Yeah. There is where I do think that was just the problem assessment, but I do want to say some kind of solution assessment where I do think people might be able to do is the actual lobbying and pursuing the reparations claim as a tort claim, regardless of whether you go past that or not. Everybody could have their own version of what the tort would look like. And so those are the two things I feel like can somewhat be universal.
Well, if the Negro groups is going for a tort claim, if that's what they're doing, then let them go, and we will see them all at the finish line. Because I don't know a whole lot about the tort claim situation. And I'll leave that there. Davey, and then the company, and then Brother Moon.
Yeah, let me say something about tort laws. So there have been multiple cases litigated in court about reparations over the last 100 years. And definitely back in the 70s, they were filing cases in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. And what always comes up, and this is to tort, is statute of limitations. The courts have stated they don't have the authority to grant reparations because of that. The executive branch and the legislators have the authority to do that. The judges don't have the authority. That is their stance. And so going through the courts is likely to be a dead end because it's been tried over and over and over again, and they keep coming up to the same roadblock. So you gotta
they sue the United States for genocide or attempted genocide. They've done that before.
If you're talking about international courts, the United States government is a sovereign nation. It does not recognize international law at all.
No, I'm talking about literally just going after the United States, like me versus the United States for genocide.
Well, I mean, if that's a new thing, I'll have to look into that. Normally, when people talk genocide, they're talking about international law, international courts. If you can prove to the United States government that they practice genocide and it's within the tort claim, which would be statute of limitations, you'd have to have victims, you'd have to have families that can represent the victims, then you may have a case, but I don't know if it's going to stretch out to 40 plus million Black Americans. It may be something that can work for individuals.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I think everybody could take their own claim as it add, take away, but you know what I mean? And you know what doesn't work. Like every tort claim that even gets knocked down still gives us information for the next one. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, let's all look into it because hey, if no one's ever brought it, it may be something new. You got to go through the process. You got to get likely to the Supreme Court. Even if you get a judgment on a lower court, someone's liable to challenge it, and that's why everything ultimately ends up in the hands of the Supreme Court. But it sounds like something that could be worth pursuing, but you need a victim for every case.
When the Germans came over after they came back from World War II, they were brought over, and then they actually filed paperwork documents to be classified as Jews, so that they can actually be classified as refugees. Did they file tort claims?
No, but they lobbied. So I'm assuming blacks are just never going to lobby because they haven't. I'm not saying that they will not.
I do agree. I do agree that we need to definitely get groups together so we can lobby. That's definitely, I agree with you on that. But I'm wondering, in regards to the tort claim, what group has actually done it successfully that has received reparations? Do we know?
What group that never lobbied got reparations? I can say the same thing.
I can tell you,
and I can tell you that I would answer your question if I knew the answer. But I'm just saying.
It's
so
we don't. We don't know.
Okay.
The most recent court cases that have moved tort out of the way involve child victims of sexual molestation, either with the clergy or some other organization. That's when they've moved those tort laws and they've extended them out in order to cover the victims. In some states, it's 50 years and beyond, when it used to be, maybe 5 years or whatever the case may be. So the legislators in states and in the federal government can remove tort. They can remove it. That's going to require a majority of the votes in the House and the Senate in order for that to occur. They can also change the 14th Amendment, which talks about not paying, for slavery, whatever, blah, blah, blah. On the federal level, all of this is uphill climbs at the federal level. I'm going to be very honest. At the state level, if you control the state, you can get rid of that stuff within the first week. If you don't control the state, you got to have enough people in the state legislature that are willing to either ignore, remove, or whatever, revise those laws so that they can get around it. But yeah, that's what it boils down to when it comes to that. The Germans who came over here who were Jews, they were the actual victims. And so I think for that, it's going to be a situation where that's what they're going to say. They were the actual victims, were the descendants of the victims, for the most part.
But Germany actually is not an ethnicity, and it's actually a nationality. So what they did was they actually had themselves reclassified so they can actually be held. The Jewish status actually can be classified as their ethnic status, so the Supreme Court can recognize them.
And we would.
That's what I read.
And we would be the descendants because slavery didn't end to 1965. I don't know why I can keep reminding people. So everybody here had either lived that long, have a parent that has, or have a grandparent. So you literally are the descendants. That's why I just want to point that out.
Yes, we are the descendants.
We are the descendants.
But you heard what I said though, right?
Repeat it, just in case. I'm sorry. I don't know if you said something different. That's what I heard.
I don't think so. I was just saying that the people who came over from Germany, they were the product of harm that the United States participated in during the Holocaust. In order to get recognized under the statute for the Supreme Court, they changed their ethnic designation because their nationality here in the United States were German and whatever their European name was, but then they actually reclassified themselves under their religious name, Jewish, to actually represent their ethnic status so that they could be covered and the reparation can be upheld under the U.S. Constitution. That was in 1987.
Well, the Africans that they got the particular stock actually called themselves the Amazighin, so I guess that would be the same thing, right?
If that's what their ethnic designation was, then yeah.
No, I'm saying that's what ours would be, because it would be our ancestors. But I'm just pointing out.
Well, if that's not being, if nobody brought that up during the OMB to have it added on as an ethnic designation,
Jewish is not on the OMB anywhere.
It's not, because it was already actually codified in law. So what I'm saying
Can you show me that law? Because I've never seen that.
Sure. And Davey, you're up.
Davey, you got it, bro. Let's get it. Whew. Davey, you there? You got to unmute if you're still with us. Okay, we'll swing back to him. Who we got next?
I think it's the company.
I'm here. Okay. There's a lot that we have to, work out. I want to try to say a point. San Francisco reparations only failed because they didn't have a well thought out plan. I would have to say, just from my observation, this is just from what I've seen, what I know, is that they didn't really have the method of how that money would be collected. They didn't think about who would be distributing that money to. They don't really have an idea fully about who to vet when it comes to these reparations. So there's a lot of mechanisms, that wasn't there, and I wasn't surprised that it failed because, when it comes to these things, these people want to know if they're going to put money in our hands, are we going to do the right things with it? Is it going to be as professional as, say, the Indian Bureau's Affairs or something like that? And $5 million in actuality to every Black American in San Francisco is just, to me, I took economics class. I took macroeconomics. I took many accounting classes from, the same type of accounting classes as if you're calculating, the government's national input and on local level businesses. But it can't be done. That sector of California cannot produce that amount of money. You have to realize that the white people that were spending money in the economy of San Francisco, they moved out. And they were the highest earning people that's there. So you're only left with the people that live there on low income, and San Francisco is almost on its last leg. So looking at that reparations package, I was just looking for disasters. Plus, it was ran by the wrong people. But that's why, like other people, like our own people, Black Americans, we have backup plans, people. We have backup plans. If one fails, we have another plan. And if that plan fails, there's another one. Trust me, we got plans and rabbits to pull out the ass, or out of the, the hat. This is not going to end until it's done. Until we are truly free. And, that's one of my personal goals that I see to the end of this, to the day I die, that, we have schools, we have an institution, we have a proper way of people, paying people out. We have to realize we cannot pay everybody out one lump sum and just say that's it. We can't do that. We have to have institutions that can take the money, invest it. Like, you'll get money in your pockets and stuff like that. Trust me, but you gotta invest that back into Black communities. If you get reparations, you have to invest at least like 10% of that, tithing into the community or towards the bureau, so that it can put that money to other you know, structures that it wants to build, whether it's hospitals or education centers. We need to control that, and we cannot control that if we don't have an agency that controls that. Fuck if it's called the Freedmen's Bureau. I don't care what it's called. There's no law that says what the bureau is called, but we have to establish that. And not only do we establish the bureaus within every state and have our Black majority states, because we're just not going to leave California without leaving something here, because we're going to have to come back. We're just not going to leave it to foreigners and Mexicans and Asians and all these other people to say, okay, well, all you guys can have this territory. No, we're still going to have bureaus in your territories, whether you like it or not. And we need a centralized bureau besides the ones that are across the states that is sovereign to our people. And we can do this. We have the ability to solve this problem. All the he say, they say, and all the arguments is beyond it. Because no matter what people say, there is a contingency plan to make this go through. And there's a lot of money being spent into it, and a lot of sacrifices that are being made, whether people know it or not, to make that happen. And I guarantee you it will happen. Even if they don't give you a cash payment check, you will become sovereign people, and you will still have everything that you need in necessity to grow and be beyond what these people have tried to lay this out to be. We can be better than this, people. We have the strength, we have the courage, we have the backing, we have the support. Like, we need to keep people out of our circles that are just defeatist attitude people that don't have the courage to just stand up. And who cares what other people say? We're doing this for ourselves. And let's do it for ourselves and our people. I land with that because, that's what my ancestors would have wanted us to do today, regardless of what I think. Because honestly, I'd rather be in my own mind somewhere else doing whatever I'm doing with whoever it is that I'm doing with. But that is not the case. I can't just consciously leave that and just say, oh, well, I'm good, forget everybody else. No, that's not the attitude that we have. No matter whether you're good or bad or whatever situation you're in, we're all in the same fight. That's all I have to say. And I will now drop down for the night. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Is Davy Jets ready? Davy Jets. Okay, you got it.
I can go ahead real quick.
Okay, Brother Moko, you got it. Brother Moko, while we wait for him, I'm gonna get everybody.
Sorry, man. That's what I was unmuted. My bad.
Okay, gotcha.
I said thanks, Davey. I said I'm gonna try to make this quick as possible because I was interrupted before by a phone call from my son. But I really wanted to land with sort of like I'm not even gonna say sort of. I'm gonna say I think, a calculated solution. I heard what Art said, and I definitely heard what Rella was saying. I agree with both of y'all. Y'all both made some really good points that I definitely have thought about, and which is the reason why I went down to Annapolis. We have a real important person in the space. I feel like she does a lot. No taxation. I really fucks with her real heavy. I'm gonna tell you this. What I've learned is, and she can correct me. She's in the listener right now. But if I say anything wrong, sis, please correct me, okay? But for what I've gained, we got 3 months out of a year. All right, 3 months out of 365 days to go and actually take whatever you propose, okay, whatever that may be, okay. You have 3 months out of the year to take your proposal, which if you do enough shopping during the 278, I think, days, whatever your proposal is, if you do whatever you have to do and lobby, and that means go down there and keep shopping it to the delegates and the senators that's going to hear or bite or take your proposal on and make it a bill and try to and implement it into law. These things, you know, we only have a small window, which is 3 months. All right. The rest of the part of that year, you know what I'm saying? You got to be shopping your shit to delegates, you know what I'm saying, and senators, which is your proposal. Look, I propose this. This is what we need done. You feel what I'm saying? If we all do this during that, I mean, and be consistent in your area. You feel what I'm saying? If we all do this and be consistent in our area and do this lobbying, okay? Because that's all this is. Lobbying is only if we was on the street and you had some banging ass weed. You feel what I'm saying? And you want everybody in the hood to know, yo, I got that good. You gonna get out there. You gonna shop your shit around. Okay, that's the same shit that we doing with this reparations. But at the end of the day, I heard somebody say something that was real important. Okay, everybody has a different idea of what they need for reparations. Okay, that's cool. But the way we unified is whatever you're going down to lobby, whatever proposal you're taking down to become to try to make it into a bill, to make it into a law of some sort, which is reparations. We're trying to make that a law. It's a law that you got to pay us. You feel what I'm saying? We consistently do that through the year. And then when it comes that time, that 3 months, which begins in, I believe, is January to March, okay, is when they actually putting shit on the floor, making trying to propose your bill into a fucking law. You feel what I'm saying? If we do that consistently through the year, and whatever fucking argument or gripe you're going down there to make, at the end of that gripe, make it about repair. Fucking reparations for fucking entertainment. But at the end of it could be even what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? As far as the STEM program, this is how we gauged our proposal. At the end of it, we tied it all in. If we're going to be doing these jobs, we're willing to take on this proposal and do these jobs for these vacant properties. And what we want is any work that comes through Baltimore or the state of Maryland. It's a law that has to come through to us first. Okay? We're trying to make that a law. How are we going to make that a law? Well, look, that's a form of repair to a damaged people. We've been blocked out of the economic chain for so long. You feel what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, this is a repair to our people, which is our children. You know what I'm saying? Because we got them in the STEM program. We're teaching them how to fly drones. We're getting them to have their licenses at the age of 16. For what? To service the place where they to be, to be productive citizens where they live. You feel what I'm saying? Hell, we got the whole setup right here. We even got jobs set up for you when you don't have to go in the fucking military. We trying to start our own black majority state. This is how black majority states start. You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We're using the same system that's right here. You know what I'm saying? And if we're going that route, which it seems that's the route we're going, then we have to play by their rules.
Let me.
And if we're playing
Man, I thought I had already did that.
we have to play the absolute best hand that we had. Right now, we have the best hand dealt, and we're fumbling. Okay, we fumbling it, and we don't have no time to fumble. You know what I'm saying? The only reason I found out this information is because I heard something that Sister No Taxation said. You know what I'm saying? She said, if you want to learn how shit works, you got to go down there and see how, you got to see where they're going at. You got to go in the buildings and see what they do in them buildings. You know what I'm saying? When I went in that fucking building, I seen how they got offices set up. And guess what? They right beside each other. You got the black caucus by this office by that office. Environmental and transportation right across the street. You got this, you know what I'm saying? And guess what? You hit all them offices. You feel what I'm saying? And see, they put all that shit in place just because they knew that, look, if we make them have to go and do footwork, motherfuckers hate going to the motor vehicle to get a goddamn license. You know motherfuckers ain't trying to go into a goddamn House of Delegates or the fucking senator and going to this office and that office and sit and wait for a motherfucker. You could be waiting for a motherfucker for a whole hour. We were sitting up there waiting. I had to wait for a delegate for 3 goddamn hours. But you know what? I sat down there and waited for Mary Washington until she got off the fucking floor. And you know what? When she came and came into our office, I was sitting right there.
Damn, 22 people tuned into that shit?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you. Yeah, actually, you represent my district. And what I was saying was, I already ran down, I just ran down shit to her. And what I did is ran down a bunch of complaints. And at the end of that complaint, I said, because see, all this is about is repair. See, I'm a damaged individual. I suffer from PTSD and this, that, and the other. And guess what? It was done by my government. And before it was done by my government, it was done by my government when I was a civilian too. And I don't want this shit to happen to my children. Hell, I don't want it to happen to your children. Do you have any children? To see how I just switched all that shit up, and fortunately, guess what? She ain't had no children. And you know what I told her? I told her the same thing I just told all y'all in this space. I said, well, man, you just said you don't have children, but we share melanin. My children is your children. So I take offense to that. You know what I'm saying? You should be fighting for my children, which is your children in here. So, Ms. Washington, I have to ask you another question. What are you fighting for? You was just on the fucking floor up there. What were you fighting for? What proposals were that turned into bills were you trying to change in the law? What did you vote on in there? Was it marijuana? Was it the no smell law? Did you vote on that? And you know what? She was in there and she voted on that shit. But you know what? More importantly, she was wondering, how the fuck did this black nigga know this shit? You know what I'm saying? I didn't already talk to the mayor of Baltimore. I'm down here really talk to the fucking governor. You know what I'm saying? But I couldn't get to him, so I'm talking to the Black Caucus because I know the Black Caucus is there all the fucking time. And then I'm making them look. I'm like, look, if y'all don't mention this is downright betrayal to the black. I mean, what do you think if the grassroots decide to retaliate? And that's the young. I'm gonna tell you, the young man named is Ali. He's an assistant and down there in the House of Delegates down there in Annapolis for the Black Caucus. Ali. I said, Ali, I'm going to just say this. I'm going to just pose the question that you can pose to your superiors, but I'm going to just leave you with this. Just think if the grassroots decide to retaliate. You know what I'm saying? Y'all already had an insurrection, and it's not a threat, but y'all already had an insurrection in D.C. with the white people, so-called, and I put my quotation fingers up. But if they really the minority, what do you think will happen if the grassroots really decide to retaliate? People are getting tired of being mistreated, and we're getting tired of being looked over. I said, they ain't a threat, brother, because you share the same melanin as me. That's why I'm coming to you. I said, but I will be back down here the next 2 weeks when everybody is back in the offices, because I want to talk to everybody. And particularly, I want to talk to people that don't look like me. And he was like, I understand, bro. Shook my hand and all that shit. Yeah, he played it right there. But you know what? I noticed he played it because I had 15 other motherfuckers behind me. And they wasn't smiling. They wasn't acting rowdy. Nobody wasn't talking about what happened on Power last night. Nobody wasn't talking about their shoes, trying to look cute. Everybody was standing behind me, silent as shit with their mug broke down. And they wasn't mean. No, nobody up there cussing or nothing. Everybody was quiet. It was uniform. And I'm like, so, you know, I got my brothers behind me and my sisters behind me. They got some, you know, they got some real rights too, so you might want to listen to them. Because I'm going to have more next time. When I said that, he was like, you know what he came with? Well, you could come down the next 2 weeks because next week they're not going to be here. I'm going to just tell you right there. But the week after that, everybody will be here. I'm sure. But I was already planning to come down there in 2 weeks because I already got that information from a valuable source. You know what I'm saying? But I land there. I was trying not to make that too long, y'all. I just wanted to leave y'all with that information. You know what I'm saying? It's real important. And if we, well, not if we are in this fight. We are at war. And we do have some weapons. I mean, in the form of guns and butter. We do got some guns. We dealing with a lot of butter, but we got some guns and we can use them if we really fucking galvanize together. And this is what this space should be about. This is what this space is about. When I seen this title, your agenda is not important than uplifting Black America. It's really not. You know what I'm saying? When you get to talking about gender and all that other shit, I've always told people, man, look, that whole, well, you know, as long as it ain't coming at me, tolerating that shit and condoning shit like that, condoning more confusion don't lead to nothing but more confusionary tactics and more distractionary weaknesses, y'all. You know what I mean? And I've been dropping that for like the past, 3-4 months. If y'all don't know what that is, that's racism, white supremacy for your ass. You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of distractionary weaknesses and we can't give in to them no more. Absolutely time and absolutely no time for no weaknesses. So if you like ice cream, stay the fuck away from ice cream. Don't talk about it. Don't even indulge in no conversation. If you like fucking, you know, if you like hookers, hey, don't fucking indulge in that shit. You know what I'm saying? This is the time. That's codification. You know what I'm saying? That's what Rella was talking about. You know what I'm saying? Solutions to fucking problems so they won't even arise no more as problems. We try right now, we at a point where we trying to make all problems a fucking myth. Like, problem? What's a problem? I don't even know what that is. I don't even want to know. I don't even know. What's that word again? That's how we need to be looking. That's how we trying to get it. You know what I'm saying? And in my mind, that's justice. I don't know about anybody else, but that's justice. When I can guarantee that my man Cognitive ain't going to get shot, ain't going to get harmed at his job, and I'm in Baltimore and that motherfucker way down in fucking Texas, and I'm guaranteed he's safe, that's justice. But if I can't guarantee that, or guarantee when he get a flat tire on the highway, and I'm in fucking Hawaii, and he in goddamn Kansas, you know what I'm saying? And he don't get the most constructive help, meaning a new tire, a new car if he need it. Just like that, I don't know if y'all heard my finger snap, but just like that, like I'm bewitched or something, you know, just twinkling my nose and shit. No, it ain't justice. We ain't there yet. You feel me? I'm failing, and I need y'all to help me pass. I want to help all of us pass, but I'm failing right now because we all fucked up. We all fucked up in this space. I don't care if your living situation is fortunate. If your mother in a fucked up situation, you fucked up, honey. You know what I'm saying? I'm fucked up. So I need y'all to help me pass. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm failing and fucking up white.
So what I'm saying, what I'm understanding is
nothing but nigga babble, bro.
Well, I want to say what I'm understanding is you're saying don't give into your
I'm
carnal
sorry.
desires.
Hold on. What did you say?
I said that wasn't nothing but nigga babble.
Who's speaking?
All right. Since that was nigga babble,
Me too.
you think me kick rocks.
No, what I wanted to say was, brother, Muko.
Yeah, Muko. Yeah, you was right, bro. Go ahead.
I don't know.
That
It
will
looks
be
like
there.
a connection issue with that one. I don't even know who that person was. Wasn't bringing that person up, but uh, man, it sucks when people come in and disrupt the conversation with
No,
that.
they wouldn't say it right.
It's just annoying. So annoying.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
I
Mom.
heard what he said, brother. Nah. I heard what he said, but you know what? It's VGQ. He a victim. He guaranteed and he got the qualifications to say what he
might
said.
be. I think he might be white.
But you
He
know
might
what?
be white in that under that behind that profile.
Okay. Well, if he was black, yeah. If he shared that melanin, I wasn't gonna argue with him. You know what I mean? He could think how he think and feel how he feel. But at the end of the day, long as you got the point, long as everybody in here is actually doing some motherfucking work and wants some fucking repair, long as y'all got the point, that's all that message was for. You feel me? And guess what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm saying? I'm a KIM. I'm gonna keep it moving. You feel me? Because at the end of the day, that motherfucking, whatever he said, don't stop my motherfucking wheels from rolling down to Annapolis, DC, or fucking Cali, or where the fuck ever I gotta go. You feel me? I'm gonna make that work happen. But I think the company is like, I'm sorry, man, I ain't gonna keep that one. Like my
No, don't even say that. Don't even adapt that, because fuck that and fuck him.
Yeah, let me take this time.
Who says NIGGR Babel? No. No.
Hey, what did I miss that quick after I left? Like, what happened now? I fucking done.
Just morons. Let me point everybody to reparations2023.com. Reparations2023.com. This is the big, huge, massive rally that's coming up in DC to honor the Juneteenth holiday. It's a festive protest, and we want everybody to visit the website and make plans to be there. Definitely make plans to be there. We talk about Black migration often, and the reason is because much of the things we talk about, much of the agendas that people have, can be comprehensively solved when Black Americans control the state government, county government, and most of the local governments. There's always going to be enclaves of different others, whatever they are, because you can't deny people citizenship in the United States of America. But if you can maintain a majority, you can control the environment. And that is what's most important. We've never had control over our environment in this country. And there is no plan for us ever to have control over our environment in this country, which means we will be permanently pushed further and further and further down the totem pole. That is the plan. That is how minoritism, marginalization, subjugation, and ultimate re-enslavement occurs. And the re-enslavement may not be in bondage out in a plantation on the fields. It could be a different form, but nonetheless it will be enslavement still. I grew up very, very poor, utilizing the services of public welfare, public housing, although thankfully it was Section 8 housing, not inside of, project housing. But I do understand project life. Many of my family members did live in projects, and we often visited and hung out in project areas. So I know that life as well. But many can say that the trauma, to be quite honest, that those who lived in project housing is probably some of the worst trauma that Black Americans have faced, especially because there's multi-generational trauma for those who suffered under these project housing situations. You become wholly dependent on the government. They essentially flood the community with drugs, guns, alcohol, etc. And literally most of the times they're cut off, really literally cut off from society. Most are built on top of old brown fields, which are old industrial plants or some other toxic waste dump area. And so it's toxic. They don't maintain the properties. They don't maintain the pest control. It's just a negligent situation all the way around. And unfortunately, a lot of self-harm occurs in many of those housing situations. Miss Rell is telling me to adjust my mic, so I'm going to end on that. I'm just past the mic, but um, we got to get our stuff together, and not everybody's going to migrate. Not everybody can migrate, but those who can need to. Those who can need to. 1% is all we need. It's a very small number. The goal for this rally, I believe, is several thousands. And so we're hoping to meet and exceed whatever the goal is, double and triple that. Um, Judge Joe Brown said the reason that the civil rights movement was so effective is that 30,000 people would show up to whatever they had planned. 20, 30, 40,000 people would show up. And that's what we need. We need thousands, tens of thousands of people to show up to make it effective. So it can't be ignored, it can't be denied. And the news services will pick it up. They'll understand that this thing is growing and growing and growing and growing and will not stop. News Toter.
Hey, real quick, Black, I was going to say, when you get a chance, hit me in the back channel so we can discuss those banners further as well, too. So.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not sure. We had someone up, but it looks like they dropped down, and I'm not sure if someone else was ready to go. But earlier in the week, the NAACP representative came out. He was on one side, and he flipped back around. And I know people were a little excited about things that he said. And so I was in a space. I think I was only in one space that kind of was addressing the issue and the situation. But then I saw that other people who are in responsible positions sort of kind of backed off a little bit, but then the next day it seemed like everybody was back on it. So whatever. I mean, it sounds like it's another unfortunate situation. Obviously, you put out a number to attract attention, and that was their goal, and they probably needed and exceeded their goal of putting out this large number. Maybe we should put out a number like we demand $100 trillion to really, really get the press buzzing for this situation, so they really get excited. But in the first post in the Jumbotron, I essentially laid out the 5 areas that a city. The city is not a state. State is not the federal government, but that a city and or a state, for that matter, can use to raise revenue. Because there's really only a few mechanisms, and actually San Francisco has a website where they actually list out their bonds, and so you can actually see where they basically plan out. They have 10-year plans. They plan it out. They tell you how much money they essentially expect to bring in from these bonds. And I believe the airport is the largest bond initiative on that particular website. But these are the 5 ways that a state can, or a state or a city or a county can raise funds. The first one is they can increase the tax rate across all sectors. So the city of San Francisco can increase the tax rate across all sectors, meaning that none of their current expenses will be affected because they're going to actually grow the pie. So if all of their current responsibilities are taken care of, there's not going to be any negative thing that will occur because they're increasing it. Now, some people will say, "Oh, they're going to raise my taxes, blah 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 blah. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that." Well, the reality is they can raise them by just enough, a very small percentage, and they can do the calculations with an economist to figure out exactly how much revenue they have to bring in from the tax base, and that could be property taxes, sales taxes, whatever taxes, corporate tax, whatever they tax in the state. If they tax employees, so be it. To come up with a number that could be 0.5%, it could be 1%, it could be 3%. They can figure that number out. The other one, number two, is they can increase fees across all sectors. Fees for most jurisdictions is not a big revenue generator. However, every single penny counts. And so they can increase the fees. Again, it could be $1, $2, $5, depending on the fee and the service. They can figure that out. The third one is, and initially I was just with municipal bonds, but they can issue what are called tax-free municipal bonds. This would be very attractive to investors, whether private or public. Oftentimes, governments like to invest in bonds as well. Corporations, individuals, and even foreign countries can invest in municipal bonds. So that would be a third revenue stream that they could utilize. I recently posted about a bunch of local, state, county governments that had all these budget surpluses. I believe San Francisco at one point in time did have a budget surplus. That may not be the case today. However, if they do have a budget surplus, they can utilize funds from that. They can also go for federal grants. There is a federal grant system in place. This is another reason why we need a black majority state. There's federal grant programs in place for states, counties, and local municipalities to get funds for certain specific situations. So I believe they can also utilize the federal grants to get funding. And this may have to be program based, but if it's program based, so be it. It'll be another form of restitution. And then the last one is voluntary private and corporate contributions. And this I want to highlight because in this situation, it seems as though Wells Fargo decided to donate $50 million to the NAACP. Wells Fargo could have also said, we're going to donate $50 million to restitution for the Black American citizens in the city of San Francisco. And I'm sure there are multiple corporations within the city of San Francisco that could also put up significant amounts of money and revenue and do it on an annual basis in order to bring about restitution for the citizens, the Black American descendant citizens of the city of San Francisco and any and every municipality and state and county in the United States government outside of the federal government can do the exact same thing. The money can be generated. It does not have to affect any of their current budgets because this is what they do when they build roads and they build airports or they build new luxury condos or they want to build a stadium or any other projects that they want to build that cost hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. This is how they generate revenue. The company and then news service.
I'm sorry, I was in the middle of responding to a message, but what I wanted to say was that, building our structure and our infrastructure, I don't know how many times I have to say this, is the most important thing that we need to stress. Like being able to come up with the bureaucracy that removes ourselves from this problem is a necessity. And, I'm glad that you brought up about those surety bonds and all. There's all types of bonds. We could go down a whole bunch of lists. But I think that, I really hate to say this on this platform because it's recorded and everything. I wish we had more spaces that, people can take notes and keep on track without having to record these spaces because to me, it's just, anyways, we can take advantage of this because if we own most of the bonds, as far as I know, bonds they come with interest and all the other stuff, and all the interest rates are up and all the other stuff currently right now because the country's in such a deficit. That is definitely something that we could take advantage of because it's kind of looking at like paying our own reparations, but kind of not because we're only paying half of it. But, we can make sure that, we own most of the bonds, when it comes to reparations rather than having foreign people invest into it and, having influence and all the other stuff, yada, yada, yada. But, that if they're putting up bonds to reassure reparations, I think that's something that we can definitely take advantage of. Especially at the interest rates and everything that we're at right now on bonds, that would definitely put us in the long run ahead of the game. So I just wanted to say that. I just wanted you to get up here just to say that because you were talking about bonds. And, bonds is my favorite thing because, you can invest in it and, it always makes money for you. It's like a retirement fund. But definitely that's money that can be put back into the Black community and stuff like that. Like, we got to be thinking of all these type of things. For real. And I'll land there.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't know what the population of San Francisco is, but to your point, because Judge Joe Brown actually did make the point about paying for your own reparations in Shelby County, which is the Memphis, Tennessee area, where the Black Americans are a majority of that area. And that was a very interesting and very good question, to be quite honest, in that particular area. In San Francisco, I'm being told it's 50,000 Black people. I'm trying to come up with a number. Okay, looks like there's 873,000, almost 874,000. So you're not even 10%. You're probably like 6 to 7% of the population. So what you pay in, if this was the way that they did it and they spread it out over these 5 different topics that I listed. The last one is coming from actual voluntary donors, so you wouldn't have any part in that. The 4th one is coming from federal grants and budget surpluses, so technically you may have had a small portion in that. Municipal bonds are for people who buy them, so unless you bought the bond, which you would actually generate some income, they're not high interest yielding, they're low yielding for a reason, but they're very safe for the most part. That's why people do buy them. So unless you bought them, you wouldn't actually contribute to that. The fees, you may contribute to that at some level if you use the fees and services within the city. The tax rate would probably be the one thing where the 50,000 or 40,000, whatever the number is, would actually see some increase. But if you're weighing the increase in your taxes versus the amount of income, and I'm going to use the term income, it's probably better to say an award because it should be non-tax and it should be considered an award
But
and or a
if
settlement.
you're going to put your money into something that's not going to depreciate, because if you put your money, say like you get money and you put it in a bank account, right? It depreciates, right? Because you're going to get fees, all the other stuff. Yeah, right? Money depreciates. But if you put it into a bond, that doesn't depreciate at all, but it could increase potentially, so that's why, I think that bonds are safe. I mean, I could be wrong. You could correct me on that. I'm not sure 100%, but 98%, I could say that, you're safe with these type of bonds for the most part.
Yeah, so that's kind of outside of the realm of where I just want to focus it on the 40,000 Black Americans who could receive reparations in San Francisco. So whoever buys the bonds, it's fine. Again, globally, people can buy those bonds. Great thing. It'll essentially keep their money close to the rate of inflation, but not necessarily. So yeah, technically you could lose money based on the rate of inflation. However, you do have this guaranteed income on the money, and it's a low percentage rate. So that just kind of is what it is. But for the 40,000 Black Americans who live in San Francisco, who are in different areas of the economy in terms of their personal income, the main one that would affect them may be taxes on their income in the city of San Francisco. However, and this is the point I want to make, the fact that they would be getting $5 million in a settlement for a debt that's owed would far outweigh whatever taxes from income that they paid into that system. It would be a massive net increase in terms of how much they got out of the system versus how much they actually put into it. So for that reason, I would still be okay with an increase in personal tax income. And even if there was people who own property and their property went up a couple $1,000s a year, because it's going to be spread out across the 800 plus thousand people in the city. And that includes all of the corporations in the city as well. That's the most efficient way to do it, is to spread the cost out across the entire population over the number of years that it takes to fully pay for it. The other main issue, and this is probably the biggest incentive for the city of San Francisco, is that it creates 40,000 millionaires that live in the city of San Francisco, who then could invest their money back into the city of San Francisco. That is probably the way that it should be presented to the city of San Francisco. And I'll end on that.
And break it down into payments, because paying people one lump sum all at one time doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't. So again, I can't sit here and say whether or not that would be the way to do it, because they have to have economists that come in and figure that out. However, if they can get a loan and they can have that loan backed by all of these things that I mentioned, and then they could actually issue one-time payments, so be it. If they say it has to be, 3 years, 5 years, I would say the shortest time period possible would be the best way to go, because once administrations change, if things are not permanently codified into constitutional law, it is likely to be defunded, divested, and or altered at some point in the future. So the longer you get payments, in my personal understanding of how this country works historically, the more in danger it is to be reneged upon, because that is how the United States of America operates. It breaks all of its treaties, doesn't live up to any of its agreements, it always finds a way out of long-term agreements. Always.
So that means that we have to be able to get the payments out within 3 years before terms move over.
That's what I would suggest on any level, federal, state, county, whatever. Get it out before the administration who approved it is out of office. That would be my number one suggestion. Make sure the payments happen before that administration gets out, because what's likely to happen, there's likely to be a backlash in the electorate. They're likely to vote those people out, and the people that are running campaigns are going to run on, we're going to get rid of it. That's absolutely what's likely to happen. So yeah, I would do it in a very short time period. News Toter, you got it. My bad.
Oh no, that's cool. I was gonna say, I heard you say something to the effect earlier. You were saying, I guess the actual number that they threw out, I guess the 5 million. You felt that did you feel that number was too high that they were actually putting out there, or I'm not exactly sure. It seemed like you were saying that. I guess you were saying that we might as well try for 100 trillion and just see what happens. So did you just feel like the number was a negotiating tool, or it's something that they really feel strong about?
No, I believe they put the number out to get attention, to get press, to get attention. All eyes on me, with no basis at all whatsoever for that number. And Miss Rella spoke to that the number, it could be more than that. I think Miss Camilla Moore has been very careful lately to say that we're not putting out a number until we go through the report and we get all of the information. And then we'll come up with a number. So I don't know what the number is or should be, to be quite honest. I don't live in San Francisco, but that is the number that they put out to get attention. And it's one thing to get attention. I mean, that's always good in a sense. They say bad press is good press, whatever, you're getting attention. However, I think you got to be ready to not just justify the number, but explain how you got to the number, explain, the reasoning and the harms and everything else that kind of go into the number, so that it does sit on a solid foundation. There's been the number of, I think it was 151 trillion that was put out in some article a few years ago that got some traction.
It went up to the quadrillions with some people, quadrillions of dollars.
Yeah, there's also in Oregon where the guy, and I actually I posted this story a while, I mean, it's probably over a year ago, or at least close to it, but it was something like $123,000 a month in perpetuity. And that didn't even make it out of committee. But the guy was a black guy. He said that was his starting negotiating point. So he kind of admitted that he put that number out just to kind of get the conversation started. But me personally, I don't think that thing has moved at all. Like, I don't think it's moved a muscle. I think it's reckless to just throw out some big number to get attention, and then you turn off the people who actually have to vote on the thing, or you get, again, their constituents riled up, and then they start calling in and they start making it very, very clear that if these people vote for it, they're gonna remove them from office, or they're gonna support their other person. They're gonna stop donating to their campaign. So you can create a lot more harm by putting out a number just to get attention, and not have, the justification behind it, where you can go in front of the press and then justify it and make the arguments and then stand on what you said. You know what I mean? So that's the way I look at it. Even when I first saw it, I was like, okay, this is going to get a lot of attention because it's a big number. It's a really big number. I mean, it is what it is. So yeah. The company.
Yeah. also wanted to point out also that when we're making these numbers, we have to be really, really realistic. Like, we just can't be shouting out numbers like Black Majority said just to get attention. Like, I agree 100%. You always start out with if you're negotiating, you always start out with a high number. That's just common sense. You start out with a high number and then you negotiate towards the middle. All right. So, let's look at it that way. Let's move forward. And, I'll land with that because, I'm starting to lose my train of thought because it's getting late. But, yeah, let's move along with that. Let's I think that it's good that we start out high and work our way towards a negotiating ground. But let's keep it in our favors always in our favor. Don't settle for less than anything. We're talking about land, we're talking about money, we're talking about institutions, like all that. Don't settle for less. Don't sell your people out. Don't, stay black always. And, we really got this. Like, we don't even really necessarily, in my opinion, we don't even have to be getting through all this. We could just go straight to the punch. That's the type of person I am. I don't like beating around the bush. I don't like, all, like, right now we're really just beating around the bush and trying to explain things when we already know what's fact is fact. Like, we could get to the punch if we want to. But, me personally, I have to know from the people if that's what we are willing to do. Are you willing to stop beating around the bush and get to the point? Or, let's see where this goes for, another turn and see where we land. I'm ready to get to the point, and whatever it takes to get to that point, that's what I'm willing to do. And, I will go with the consensus. If everyone says, hey, let's chill out and let's think about this, I'm willing to do that. But, me personally, I'm starting to get to the point to where, enough is enough. I've been trying to get to the point with all the backlash. I've been trying to make this to where it's locked tight where nobody can get in. I looked inside myself and said, we're all freedmen, regardless of what anybody says. And you can't get beyond that. You, like, this undisputed, just like African Americans, undisputed. Which one you want to go by? We can bring back Negro. That's a big possibility. I don't see us bringing FBA, ADOS, all that to the table as far as lineage and the designation for a lineage, just only for the fact that it's been trademarked. But other than that, if people are willing to take away their trademarks and let go of ADOS, it's for their personal gains. And the FBA, if they let go of those trademarks, then we can negotiate that being our lineage. But if not, it's Negro. Can't put black into anything. So, unless we bring that back, which I'm all for, we need to fight for it. And I'm not willing to work with cowards. So, let's do what we got to do.
Okay, I'm going to go through the Jumbotron real fast. So there was a video that was posted. I think this was in Florida. Yeah, Florida Nazi scum. So there's this little camera crew and these racist fucking douchebags. And there is a cop who looks biracial. I don't know what he is. I'm gonna be like 100 with you, but he keeps calling him the N word over and over again. And there's a female officer who appears to be the commanding officer on the scene, and they basically give this guy a pass. Um, you know, being extremely violent verbally, very racist. At the end, they do this weird ass Nazi salute thing, and no charges come out of this. No arrest or anything. Um, being that this guy who again looks biracial, he's in Miami, Florida, somewhere, so he could be of different whatever ethnicities. As he's being called the N-word, he just kind of smiles and laughs. And this is right in his face. And I say, not only do I say in the black state of America, this clown crew would have been arrested. They all would have been arrested and investigated. But I found in the state of Ohio, and every state is different. This is a part of what we got to understand about states. States create their own laws. States are allowed to give their citizens more rights than the federal government. It has to be within the Constitution, but that's why you can have marijuana legal in states, recreational or medicinal, because the states can give their citizens more rights. That's the way the country is set up. But in the state of Ohio, they've had multiple court cases about it, and they essentially say that fighting words in quotes have been defined by Ohio courts as words that would likely provoke a reasonable person to retaliate. When you're cursing at an officer, the most simple charge is disorderly conduct. You can be arrested for disorderly conduct. I've known people that were arrested for disorderly conduct for not really doing much of anything, to be quite honest. Simply a cop says go in the other direction and you do so at your leisure. You can be arrested for disorderly conduct for disobeying a lawful order. That's a very simple charge. They could have charged these morons with that, and then if they resisted arrest, they could have raised it to resisting arrest. If they got physical, it could have been aggravated, and they could have ensured that these douchebags spent overnight in prison until they got to see a judge, that they had to go through the court system so that they learn consequences to their actions. Instead, we get this video, and this is not even from the cops' point of view, body cam. This is these douchebags recording with their cell phones. He later on he gets in their U-Haul pickup truck, or U-Haul rental pickup truck, and he says that they were campaigning for donations on whatever app that they're on, and they got $33 for this video, and they're laughing and giggling about it. And so this officer, again, whatever he is, being berated with the N-word, maybe he doesn't consider himself black, and maybe that's why to him it was kind of like something that he didn't feel the need.
He wasn't black.
That could be the reason.
I saw from the video, he has that ring around his wrist that would suggest that he's either Punjabi or Hindu.
Well, I mean, again,
he looks black, but I saw that around his wrist, and definitely he's Indian. He's not black or anything. He's Asian.
And that could be the reason why he's smirking and not concerned, but that also goes to show that
Yeah, there was no black people in that whole video.
it goes
There
to
was no
show
black. That's why they were all just standing around and didn't do nothing, because they,
yes,
I think, and honestly, they all agree with what he's saying, and they're standing by him. They're just making sure nobody's coming to beat him up and attack him.
exactly. So to that point, it goes to show that the officers on the scene were complicit and accepting and co-signing this extremely violent, derogatory, terroristic language that was being thrown in the direction of what this uh whatever this guy was perceived to be a black person, a black officer at that. So they still were within their, whether he was black or not is really not the point. The point is that the officers didn't give a damn at all. Didn't give a damn at all. And like I said,
But you see how they try to use black people or people that look black, and then they make these videos. They make money off of it, and they're, saying that it's okay. That's where where, like, to me, that's unacceptable, whether people see it or not. Like, when you see these videos, you gotta really look. You gotta observe everything. It's kind of like finding Where's Waldo, right? You're looking all over the picture. You're looking at the whole thing like a crime scene. If you don't notice and say you don't study like people's religions and cultures, and you don't know what people look like and what they should look like and how they should be dressing, and all the other stuff, you're going to be like everybody else that got mixed up in the whole thing. But I'm not going to sit there and try to portray like, okay, this person's this, that, or the other. I try to leave it up for other people to look at the situation and actually see if they can find the clues in what's really going on, because things aren't always what they seem to be. When you look at it, there's always something else behind it, like the remedial meeting. You have to find it. Why are they doing this? What's the purpose of doing this?
really.
Like, and then you get to the bottom of it.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. And then, so I'm gonna do the contrast. Miss Rella put up in the jumbotron. I haven't had a chance to watch this video. I've been really avoiding these videos. This is 23 seconds of a Baton Rouge police officer that chokes a 13-year-old black child that was playing basketball in a case of quote unquote mistaken identity, while ignoring the desperate pleas from his family. So here is a child who's participating in a physical, sport activity, and these adult 200-pound plus males, this one in particular, gets on top of him and is choking him while everybody is saying that he's not the person. He's a kid. I mean, you can look at this kid and know that he's just like a little kid. So this is a clear, I mean, we all know because we understand this, but I kind of want to keep pointing this stuff out to so that we kind of get to the point where we just are sick and tired of being sick and tired of seeing the same images over and over again. To the company's point, the fact that they are online soliciting donations while they create a situation where they can have police be called out to the scene, and then they know that they kind of know that they're protected in a sense, because these police departments not necessarily want to get they don't want to get sued. Maybe he's trying to bait them into a lawsuit, or who knows what this psychopath's intentions are, but he kind of feels like it's a safe situation for him to do this. And then at the same time, they're doing it to solicit funds online. So they're looking at racism as a business, like quite literally as a business. And to me, that elevates it to a hate crime and to, in my opinion, a RICO. The RICO statute should be brought in upon these people because it's organized. It's organized criminal activity, as far as I can tell. And again, they should all be dragged through the court system, and then we figure it out from there. Um, it's
that's a really good idea, because I didn't even really thinking about it, because they are organizing this and they are a group of people, and if they belong to some type of organization, then that equals RICO for the most part. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. I'm gonna add that to my post as we make more discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna tell you one thing. Criminal conspiracy is one of the it's, in my opinion, it's one of the more easier crimes to prove in court, but it also has some of the longest sentencing in US courts. You don't ever and you don't ever want to be charged with conspiracy in the United States of America. Let me put it that way. That's the charge they put on you. They usually do drop that charge through, negotiations or whatever, because they always charge you with a bunch of things, and then they basically filter out the more serious charges usually. But the conspiracy charge is a very serious charge. Most people don't understand that. But in U.S. courts, that is, man, and we can utilize that. That's the thing. That's the thing that I'm preaching. I'm preaching. As a black majority state, you can now utilize all of these tools and weapons and mechanisms to bring about real justice to the people. The same way that they have used them as weapons against us. I'm not sure if Miss Rella's up here. She's been unusually quiet, so I don't know if she's caught in the matrix or not, but we'll see. So here's the other story. Now, this is an Asian who has so many different names. I'm not going to list them all. He's got like 40 different names apparently. But he was a social media influencer, but a little bit more than that, because he had this huge scheme to defraud investors. It says he has been arrested for financing his online followers out of $1 billion. $1 billion. Ask yourself.
I be telling people, man, these Asians, man, they know money, man, just like Jews. They know where to get those funds from, and they're saying that we can't pay for reparations, and these people are individuals are pulling billions of dollars out of the ass, like being frauds, and reparations can't be paid. Come on.
Well, if we look at the most recent bank collapse in what is the Silicon Valley, and then it's affecting, I think we're up to the third or fourth bank at this point. If you look at the
Wells Fargo is bailing them out, Silicon Bank. They want to buy that up because they want to buy up California.
Yeah, so I was gonna reference the former collapse under I guess it was under Bush, and then Obama kind of inherited it. I think News Twitter referenced it in his space earlier in the week. A lot of, and you go back to the savings and bonds loan scandal. I think I was a kid when that happened, way in the 80s. A lot of it is manipulation of markets. It's over leveraging. A lot of it is actually, it should be criminal activity, to be very, very frank and very honest about it. And again, they tried to blame Trump for removing the Dodd-Frank Act or some other legislation, but I was in a very intelligent space with some real estate investors and some bankers, And they were just, man, just giving out really good information about it. Ultimately, in my opinion, it's all based on manipulation. It's all based on manipulation. It's all based on being over leveraged and basically gambling with other people's money. Is how these banks and these markets, like the real estate market, collapsed. That's what it's about. And so, again, I'm gonna bring everything back to black majority states. A black majority state could not just institute a bank that would actually be protected under state law, but it could also ensure that within the state, because you have state regulators that regulate banks, that regulate every market, real estate, etc., they could ensure that these corporations cannot over leverage themselves in these very important critical sectors of the economy within the state. What they do in other states is their business. What the federal government allows, be quite honest, it's their business. But within the states that we control, we could regulate and enforce and fine, and if necessary, investigate and prosecute the people that, because this is not accidental. This is these things can be predicted. They can be predicted. And I think there were, I think I saw that a few investors in that bank had sold shares weeks before. I think there were other rumors that a month before other people made other moves because they basically knew that this collapse was imminent. And so, if they know it's imminent, we need to have regulators that are aware of what's going on. And then that whole thing about Wells Fargo buying it up, in that space, they were essentially saying, yeah, they're going to buy it because they're getting it at pennies on the dollar. And this is another form of theft. This is another form of theft that occurs within these markets and these systems. They write off debt. It basically disappears. They take losses, and then another corporation comes in and buys it up at pennies on the dollar. This is how they generate wealth.
And that was all caused by Elon Musk because, he invested all the, infrastructure, the new buildings like Facebook. What is it called? Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Microsoft, Apple, that invested into that community out there in Silicon Valley. They built a whole bunch of brand new buildings out there, right? Cost millions and billions of dollars. Nice building, but and then they took the tech companies. They moved it up out of Silicon Valley. All the white people moved. We already talked about that. San Francisco, all that. That's why they couldn't pay the $5 million to every black person because, those people up and move.
Where you're at.
And when they move, they're going to take their money with them. And so we're seeing that. And the only major tech company I think that's still out there would be Cisco Systems. And let me see, Amazon's not that real big. What's another company? The Cisco Systems and Facebook that's still out there. And some other tech companies that deal with Apple and Microsoft. But, most of them moved out. Especially that was big when Elon Musk moved out of California. That took a big hit, moving all of Tesla's and SpaceX's program gigafactories out of California and elsewhere like Florida and Texas.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the tweet. I posted it in again one of the news Twitter spaces, but I believe the number is over 500 banks have been closed. And I want to say the date is, oh yeah, here we go. Since 2009, over 513 bank failures in this country, and most of them, it looks like 2011, 2010, 2009, were the big hits, and then it kind of progressively got lower and lower and lower, down into the single digits by 2015. But there is this routine of bank failures in the country. It does happen. I think that the earlier majority of it was during that Obama administration situation. Um, Again, coming out of the George Bush Jr.'s term or administration or whatever. So um, I know people want to build another bank. The first bank that was defunded and defrauded, and the regulation that was put in place was removed by the white men who controlled the bank. And then there was an economic collapse across the whole country that essentially tanked it. These things occur intentionally by design. And I know that for some people it's hard to imagine that they would collapse an entire economy in order to fulfill an agenda, but this is what they do. This is how they operate. um, I'm not going to say they're very intelligent, but they're very devious, and in their deviancy they figure out ways to rob the people. This is what they do. This is why you got to be able to protect anything and everything that we build. That's like critical. Back to this piece of garbage Asian thief. They were able to seize $634 million from 21 bank accounts. So he ended up spending $370 million roughly. They seized mansions and cars, et cetera, but he was able to spend a lot of that money. And it's actually pretty amazing that they got back a big chunk of that money. This is Miss Teslin Figaro. She posted, and actually I've seen stories alluding to Donald Trump believing that there were some leaks, and that may lead to him being arrested on Tuesday. I believe what I'm seeing is that's about the lady that he had sex with. He paid her, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It kind of is what it is.
Are you talking about Stormy Daniels?
Yeah, I think every time he runs, her name's going to pop up, and they're going to keep kind of beating this over, beating it to the ground. I'm actually shocked that they'll arrest even a former president of the U.S., because I thought these people had some level of reverence for the office of the presidency. I think that's why Nixon was able to resign. But if they do end up arresting this guy, in my opinion, that's only going to rile up his base. I just don't. It just seems like, and I don't think they'll get a conviction. That's the other part of it. It just seems very strange.
I've never heard of them arresting a United States president.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even do it. Even if he committed such a heinous crime, I wouldn't even do it, because that just defaces the value of American society. Who arrests their president, or even denigrate them, or even assassinate them, unless they don't have patriotism for their country? Like, are we just trying to mark ourselves for other people?
That's a good question, Cognitive. I don't know. It's
so let's come in and
it's like
over the whole place. I don't like setting that precedent.
I think the Republicans in Georgia were saying they were going to get rid of that prosecutor.
Even if they tried to arrest
I don't know.
I don't care. If you're not going to put Hillary Clinton in jail,
certainly
I'm sure the hell ain't gonna let
I
them
don't
put
know.
Donald Trump.
I just
in jail.
don't think they'll get a conviction.
Like,
So
that's ridiculous.
what is the
You
end game
can't do
to
one
arrest
without the
him
other.
and
That's just
to essentially make all his
hypocrisy.
fucking mega-ites upset? Yeah, so we got the YouTube live going, and someone asked, do you honestly think they're going to arrest Trump? You know, it's like, what would be the point of that? Like, what is the, in all honesty, if you thought you had a locked shut case and a conviction was going to come out of it, okay, then I may actually agree with it. You know, if he's going to do 5-10 years, which would put him past a presidency. I just don't think it's going to get to that point, because what ends up happening is discretion takes over. This is very important for us to understand. There's authority and there's discretion. So the prosecutor, who seems to want to bring this case forward, I believe, if it's in Georgia, the Republican legislator was already talking about taking her power away from her. If they're unable to do that, and it goes in front of a judge, the judge can simply throw the case out, and or they can negotiate for some nominal minimal reduction to a disorderly conduct or a statutory seatbelt fine, because that's what they do in court. In real court, people have criminal charges, it gets reduced down to a seatbelt infraction. That happens every single day in court. So I just don't really honestly get it and understand it. And it's all political, of course, but it's like poking the bear, as they say, or sticking your hand in a beehive or whatever. I think it'll cause more damage than it's worth. And it is what it is. But we'll see what happens. Tuesday will come and go.
I mean, I think they're trying to make way for another president to come in. Like, they know they ain't gonna be able to put Trump in jail, but they're gonna do everything to diminish, like, Trump. As far as I see it, he's out the picture. Like, nobody's gonna vote for that guy. For realistically. I mean, it sounds all good bringing him back because he's all for closing the borders and all the other stuff. But, I think that we can pressure other people to do the same thing, Democrat or Republican. It just depends on how you talk to them and persuade them to do it. But, I think that Democrats are really trying to push Gavin Newsom to president. And if that's what they are trying to do, and if he does come with a reparations package, we're gonna ultimately have to decide to do with that situation once it presents itself. We already know Gavin Newsom is trying to become president. He unofficially already put it out there. But yeah, when that comes to face value, we're gonna have to put on our thinking hats and figure out how to deal with that situation when it comes. But if he's the only person that's coming with the reparations package, we're gonna have to understand what is it that this man is trying to do to get to where he needs to be, and then also think on the same point, do we really care who the president is if we have our majority status and we could overturn it within the next election year after we have our black majority state? We could give up one presidency maybe for a sacrifice, but we really have to think this through. All good accomplishments come with good strategies. We got to really think this through.
Yeah, so since you mentioned Gavin Newsom and his run for the presidency, I'm going to interject this question. And it simply is. I think I may have heard an echo of this in a either a space or some other place. But at any rate, this election campaign is going to start to really, really pick up later this year, and then it's going to really, really ramp up at the beginning of next year. So that means that his attention, if he does choose to make this run, is going to really start to be more and more geared towards running for president, right? 2024. Is it imperative that whatever's going to happen in California gets done before this presidential race really starts to heat up? Is it critical, number one, because the intention goes somewhere else? Two, because it's unfinished business that needs to be completely finished before he ever touches the presidency. In other words, would Black America unite in order to keep him out of the presidency and ensure that unless reparations in California are passed, that he does not get the Black American vote? And the reason I say that is because
that's true.
no president, no Democrat president can win the presidency without the Black vote. They just can't win.
And I also want to stress that in doing this, he has to prove that it can be done in a single state.
Mm-hmm.
If it can't be done in a single state or even a single city, you can think of federal reparations as a thing to wish upon. Even though we know that it can be done in many ways, there's so many ways why these people could say it can't be done. But getting these people's interests, I think it would be beneficial for us, even though we could do it without them. But definitely you have to prove that it can be done economically on a smaller level before you go to a federal level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it only makes sense. Like, test it out in your own backyard before you start selling it to other people. And I'm all for pushing for federal reparations, but like, start small. Like, I'm all for the big picture, but start small.
Mm-hmm.
And then let it work its way up. It's almost like faith. It starts with the size of a mustard seed. And as long as you grow that within inside yourself, one day it will grow into a mighty tree.
Mm-hmm.
A tree just doesn't grow like in 1 or 2 days. Like, it takes years and years of watering it. And so we got to treat our reparations like that. Like, we started it out as a mustard seed. We got to continue to water it in order for it to grow into a mighty tree with many branches one day that bears many fruits.
Absolutely. Let's see if Barlord has a mic. Let's see if he wants to add to the conversation. Because I'm not sure if people are able to speak right now, if they're just kind of holding. You there? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you see this mic up here, it's okay. So I'll add to the conversation from just a technical standpoint. So for any of y'all been having these issues trying to get up on Twitter, basically go over to APK Mirror. A is in Apple, P is in Paul, K is in Kelly, Mirror, all one word, .com. APKmirror.com. Search for Twitter, and you might have to roll back or install an older version of Twitter. But I also made another account because, on the bootleg came, and you can't stop me tweet, you know what I'm saying, from coming up to my other. So it is what it is. And just for that, I'll speak to the title of the room because I'm over here actually tweeting. Your agenda is not more important than uplifting Black America. Henceforth, why I don't want to be in a lot of these spaces. I don't want to go back and forth with no Negro, Freemason, Kid of Tribe, ass Naka. I know Rella's still up here, but she ain't saying it's Naka. No, I don't want to go back and forth with none of y'all. Know what I'm saying? I ain't got time for that. I'm trying to get my goddamn check. Nacas is broke out here. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, our people's out here starving while we up here fighting about something that we all intelligently know about, but can't seem to effing agree on how we should get it done. While the tether rooms is running around getting new 2022 GMC trucks, they rebuilding houses that's in the hood that belong to us. While we over here saying about who we should call yourself. No, I'm an ADOS. No, I'm an FBA. No, I'm a Negro. You know what I'm saying? That all mean the same thing, Naka. You know what I'm saying? So what we really arguing for? And guess what? The check's in right there on Jim Crow Joe desk. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. See, I know the address. We could pull up there right now, but we ain't unified. But that's another day. And shout out to Be More Codified. You already know. Get your t-shirts.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So that brings us to Miss Ingram. Oh man, she's been lighting it up lately, right? So this is her quote, Fox News quote. It's time for California liberals to stop playing games on reparations, commissions, task forces, and start leading by example. Either pass a generous reparations package or stop all the talk of systemic racism. So what this is what's happening. You have what I'm going to call reparations fatigue. And it's one of those things where you have their attention. And a matter of fact, this is, and I don't like to quote Obama, but this is a quote that he made. I made a post about this a while back. But he essentially said, I think this was coming out of the Black Lives Matter movement, but he essentially said, now that you have their attention, tell them what you want. Because what ends up happening, and this is just wisdom, is that you get their attention, you grab their attention, and you get what you want. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be another crisis, and another crisis, and another crisis, and another, and there's going to be all these crises that are going to build and build and build and build. And because the people who are in a position to make the decision start to get fatigued, it starts to get pushed in the back of their mind. And because you don't think about it or you don't see it, it becomes non-existent at some point. It gets pushed further and further back. So there is this careful balance that this movement has to orchestrate. And that is, you got their attention, get what you came to get. Make it very, very clear and very, very simple. Get what you came to get. Because a lot of these people are ready to actually make it happen because they want to get over it. They're kind of like, it's in my opinion, it's kind of like a situation where you're in a relationship with somebody, significant other, and they've been asking you to do something, repair something in the house or whatever the case may be, or take the vehicle to the shop to get the brakes fixed. And you kind of are procrastinating. Not to say that the reparations movement is procrastinating at all. It's to say that these governments that are doing these studies are using it as a procrastination tool, as a delay tactic. And the people who are ready to just get over it and get it over and get done and move on with the rest of their lives are starting to get at that point where they're just like, do it, pay it, get over it, and let's move on. And to her credit, even though I know she says a bunch of very anti-Black shit, in this one particular topic, she seems to be very consistent. Very consistent. Up here, we also have this, the Join Us for the New Deal for New Americans Act press conference Tuesday, March 21st at 10:40 a.m. Looks like they're live streaming this on Facebook. Facebook NP New Americans / NP New Americans. So if you have a Facebook account and you go to Facebook Lives, this is probably something that we're all probably needing to check into and see what it's about. It's a press conference Tuesday, 3/21. Let's see if there's a start time. Oh yeah, 10:40 a.m. They have a representative, Grace Ming. She's a Democrat from New York. They have a U.S. Senator, Ed Markey. He's a Democrat from Massachusetts. And then they have this woman who has a foreign last name, who's the National Partnership for New Americans. So she must be the advocate for immigrants. This is probably something that we all kind of need to tap into and understand what it's about and what they're talking about and what they're talking about giving these foreigners that are coming here and essentially, you know, jumping over us once again, as the foreigners always have done and will continue to do until we have legitimate authority to stop it. So this is the plan. This is the Democrat plan, because there's not a Republican on that panel right there. And, you know, I want to read this again. I want to read this again, whether this is a real person or not. This Efran Rojas. I found your channel on YouTube and I wanted to share some insights on the Black-Brown Alliance charade. We Latinos are 50% of Los Angeles and will soon be a clear majority in California if we aren't already. You should be very, very concerned about this, because we are not going to give up the special considerations for disenfranchised minorities, meaning Black people. We will be the overwhelming majority, and we will assume for ourselves priority in government jobs, government contracts, subsidized housing, college admissions, etc. All the Black leaders in the Democrat Party have sold Black America out. You have voted for your own erasure. What's interesting about this statement is that their numbers are up. They are getting bold and arrogant about the position that they are about to partake. And it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. The federal government can't make them get better. To be quite honest, once they have control over those states, they are essentially a region of occupied states. They don't even have to secede from the U.S., but they can operate quite literally as their own region, as a unified region. And there's nothing that the federal government can do about it, because if they're intelligent, they'll follow U.S. constitutional law. And they'll never be stopped. They're never going to be removed, because that means you'd have to bring in more population than they have, but they've already flooded the zone. It's over in those states. It's over for Black Americans in those states. I'm trying to get Miss No Taxation up, and she may be having the same issues that everybody else is having. I think we got you. Okay.
Can I get something there real quick?
Let's let Miss No Taxation speak. She just came up, and then we'll go to you after her.
Hey, Black and Grella and everybody else in the room. Hope everybody is doing well. I know that video of that little boy with being manhandled by the police and choked out by the police it weighs heavy on us. And you know, where do we go from here? I just want to say something about Laura Ingraham. Okay. Let's be real careful about Laura Ingraham. If Laura Ingraham had a history of saying that Black Americans, you know, are owed reparations in this country, that would be one thing. Ann Coulter does have a history of saying that. even before the new reparations, grassroots reparations, came in. So she's been saying it for some years, and that's why I don't attack her. Laura Ingraham is using us for political fodder, nothing more than that. She's an opportunist in the worst way.
Most of
and
them
so
are.
let's be
Most
real
of
careful.
them
Even
are.
if she says the right thing, her tongue is still forked. And so we have to make sure that we don't allow anyone, no matter, regardless of what their color is, their race or their ethnicity. We have to be real careful because you guys are on the precipice now.
Mm-hmm.
The black grassroots is on the no, and through all the fussing and fighting that everybody done did, we're still, you all still have them on the run.
Fussing and fighting.
And if you have to fuss and fight and push them on over, fussing and fighting, do what you got to do. But let's not feed into anything that Laura Ingraham is going to do, because she doesn't receive black people well at all. And I can tell you that for a fact. And that's the history that I know of Laura Ingraham. And she just trying to get somewhere, and she's not going to get on our backs and ride it somewhere. I'm not in favor of that. And so that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Black.
Absolutely appreciate you coming up to speak on it. Yeah, Ann Coulter, I'm glad you mentioned her. So she is the one who has a longer, consistent history with it. I still am just kind of highlighting the it's a very old phrase, either shit or get off the pot. I think that's where we're headed, and I don't know. Again, I think it's a delicate balance of it. But I think that's kind of where things are going. And the Obama quote is really the one that I hope stands out for people. It is simply that once you get that attention, to make it very, very clear and very, very simple and very, very easy for the people who make these votes to make the right vote. At the end of the day, I think that's extremely important. Extremely important. It would be nice if they could do like in a jury, you can survey the jury and kind of get an idea where people are at, in certain situations. It would be really, really nice if there was some insider understanding of how these different legislative bodies are going to vote, so you have an idea of who you may have to convince, who you may have to lobby, quote unquote, and or in some other way pull over to your side. I hope that is going on in the background, because that is actually a very important part of any legislation where you don't have a majority control over the legislative body, and having someone who can actually facilitate and negotiate those votes in advance. So I really, really hope for all of these initiatives that they have an insider who is really, really working to get those votes.
You're right, Black, because that's where the deals are made.
Mm-hmm.
They're made behind closed doors, sometimes in the middle of the night. They used to call them smoke-filled rooms because the rooms were smoke-filled.
Mm-hmm.
There's no smoking now, but they're still behind closed doors. And you never know what people... The thing about politics is it's really politics.
Mm.
And what we see is optics.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is optics to the general public. But the deals are made behind closed doors. And the person that looks like they could be your enemy in public, and I'm not talking about the Laura Ingrahams of the world, because they can do public opinion and things of that nature. But the bottom line is that politicians truthfully don't care about public opinion until it's time for them to get reelected.
Mm.
And we're in an election campaign era right now. So, we do need to know who's friend and who's foe.
Mm.
You know, I have some people that I know on the congressional side that I know are friends, and people would be surprised at who they are. On the Republican side, we have a few friends. Our problem right now is that the Tea Party or the MAGA people are louder than we are.
Mm.
We have to get real loud.
Mm.
And this would be a great plug for the rally in June, for June 18th, reparations2023.com. reparations2023.com. I almost sound like DJ now. But this, you know, that's what this is for, is to really get in their face and say, what are you going to do? Who's the friend and who's the foe? Let us see now, because we can't keep cutting the grass and watching out for the snakes. You understand what I'm saying? We done cut the grass 50 million 11 times. And so it's time for us to either burn the grass down and the snakes can't survive there, or get out from around where the grass and the weeds is getting too tall for us. And that's just where we're at. The line in the sand has to be drawn. And I'm hoping that the rally is the line in the sand. So I invite everybody to come. We need volunteers. Rella can talk to you about it. Black can talk to you about it. Some other people can. Certainly News Toter and DJ and some other supporters that we have. And we'll be doing more spaces, but I'm not going to sit up here and plug that with Black, because this is Black Space, but just reparations2023.com. Thank you, Black.
Yeah, no problem. So I actually want to ask you about the space, because I missed it. I don't wake up till usually 2, sometimes a little later in the afternoon, East Coast time, because I'm on like a 3 to 3 schedule. But I saw that you did have a space on it, and just wanted to know how did it go, and things of that nature.
Well, I was asked to do a space to respond to a space Alexis had, and everybody knows Alexis. She's a highly intelligent, politically astute person. But I did not hear the space. I guess there was some guy coming in, and I guess he gave his opinion, and he's not from this country, and all that kind of stuff. And so my response is that I just don't do naysayers. I just don't do them at all. People who don't have a dog in the fight, I don't pay any attention to them. And if they're not decision makers, I'm not going to pay any attention to them, because it makes no sense to me. So, and I don't give light to negativity like that. That's just who I am as a person. That's not part of my personality. Because the light that I give to something negative, or somebody who says something negative about me, I could be saying something about, we need to do something about the police that choked that little boy out. Say, so my time is better spent, saying other things. But as far as the space, it went well. What I do think that, and maybe you can set this up, Black, is that we need to have a space to talk about Black politics, because that's what we should be doing. We don't need to do politics. We need to do Black politics. And there is a difference. And, there's that's what Black Republicans do. Not too much Democrats. Democrats are into Black programs. They don't do Black politics. And I think we need to do a space and discuss that. And so people will know the difference and how you should be moving. If we're not gaining from the federal government, we're losing. Nothing stays the same. See? And you either gain or you lose. That's the name of the game. And we're losing. We're not gaining. And so we have to reverse that. And so what we need to do is discuss, how do we do that? And everything counts. It's all hands on deck, and everything counts, as long as it's for the forward movement of Black folks. So the space went well. I think I spent an hour and a half. I think, people understand clearer why I'm doing the rally. You all are thinking rally. I'm thinking Black politics. And so I see something that other people don't see. And maybe I'll have time to express that a little bit more as time goes on. And maybe people will be able to see it when they get down there and understand the need for this. It needs to be historical. It needs to be historical. It needs to be something that, as of yet, has not been done. And we need to keep our eye on the prize, because there's a prize to get. Everybody else is getting it, and it's called economics, land, and resources. And we're not getting any of that. We're not getting money. We're not getting land. We ain't getting no resources. So, we have to turn that around. We're decimated as a people. And, we're the remnant now. And so the remnant, and I will say this, and I keep saying that the Black grassroots is doing a wonderful job.
Remnant, man. Wow.
Y'all got them on the run. You just have to continue doing it. You just have to stay on it. You just cannot give up every single day. Like you said, there is nothing more important right now at this point in time in this country than lifting up in the forward movement of Black Americans in this country. And we're going to do whatever is necessary to achieve that, by hook or by crook. And I'm going to leave it there.
Thank you so much. I believe Rella is either asleep or in the Matrix. Obviously, Twitter has had a technical issue with their latest version that has been preventing people from either requesting to speak or being able to be a speaker, and the co-host is all screwed up. Like every week, I've been kicked out of this space at least 10 times. It seems to have calmed down because it was kicking me out back to back earlier, but I can't even allow the social account to come up as a co-host for whatever reason. And so it just kind of is what it is. There's one last story up here in the Jumbotron, and this is a Black family from Georgia. I believe there was body cam video of this, but again, for my personal well-being, I've stopped watching these videos. I'm my cup is full on them. I prefer to read the story because the videos are sometimes just too graphic for me at this point. But this Black family from Georgia was pulled over in rural Tennessee. Cops arrested the father for possession of 5 grams of marijuana. Goodness gracious. Without their knowledge, Children's Services got a court order to put their 5 kids in state custody, where they remain a month later. And so this family is fighting to get their kids back from Tennessee Department of Children Services. Oh, man. So, it's like stories like this that are just so... any parent that has children, dear God, can't even imagine the thought of this. This is a Black family that's together. They're caring for their children. You find what is not even, in my opinion, it's not even a personal amount. I mean, can you get that into one blunt? Maybe, possibly. I mean, that's such a small amount. It's utterly ridiculous. To take their children away from them is absurd. It's obscene. It's terroristic. And, if we can develop and establish Black majority states, we can have dedicated, loyal Black American senators and Black American U.S. representatives that I would hope could intervene in a situation such as this. This is egregious. It's an abuse of authority. Even though we may not be a Black majority in the state of Tennessee and or Georgia, we could still use and wield the power and authority that we have to help bring justice to this family. It just is ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. Oh God. I don't know what the marijuana laws are in the state of Georgia or the state of Tennessee. I have no idea. However, it's pretty clear across the country. A majority of the states, it's legal. Most of the states are moving towards. They don't even want to bother a person who they even suspect of being, inebriated, if you will, under the influence of marijuana. They're actually moving to make sure, because what's happening is in states where they have done blood testing, because marijuana stays in your system for 30 days or some other amount, they're actually moving to remove and to make it to where you have to have a significant amount of the THC. So what happens is you smoke marijuana, it stays in your system. The blood content goes down over time, so that and it may be within days, not even, it may not take 30 days, but essentially just like your blood alcohol content goes down over time, marijuana does essentially the same thing. And so they're trying to reduce, and or not reduce the amount, but come up with a amount of THC that has to be in your blood where they can say scientifically you are under the influence of marijuana or the THC in marijuana. So that if you haven't smoked in a week or a month and you have trace amounts, you won't be convicted or tried or incarcerated or charged with a DWI, which is common sense. And the reason is, unfortunately, because more and more white people are being caught up in the system, because the majority of marijuana smokers in this country are white people, because there's more of them than there are of us. I mean, it should be common sense at this point. There's more heroin users that are white because there's more of them than there are of us. There were more crack users that are white because there's more of them than there are of us. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But at any rate, we know it's a double standard. We know that if a white family was found with 5 grams of marijuana in their car, their children would not be taken away from them. And so we can continue to remain scattered across this country, where these states have their own laws, these counties have their own laws, these cities have their own laws, and the jurisdiction and the discretion is handed out unevenly, unequitably, and unfairly to Black Americans. Or we can concentrate under a jurisdiction where the state, the county, and the local municipalities are in agreement and alignment, and they don't harm our people. They don't use the system to cause harm to Black families. The company.
Yeah, I have some notes written down, talking points. I want to start from the beginning when we was speaking about. I want to talk about the Hispanic issue, and some of us down here, we've been working with, not working with, but let me say, talking with people down in the barrios. And, we already know, what the majority of people, our people said, and we already know what they want. They want to take the majority of states of California. They want, Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
They want Colorado. They want, basically they want what, used to be owned to Mexico. That's what the Hispanics want. or the Mexicans, I would say, and some South Americans. I don't know why, but grouping all the Latinos into one group, that's a bad idea. And that's only because that's going to fuck them up in the system, right? Because we've seen what happened to us. Being all lumped into one, we got to stop these people from doing harm to themselves, in lumping themselves just so that they can seem to be a bigger majority, for votes. It's not going to work for them in the long run. But, if we're to work with these people, and this is just, the discussions I've had with, some constituents that I know, I would agree that, okay, you guys can go ahead and have this if you guys want. You guys can have California and all the other stuff. But, you got to support us in reparations. And for us that are born and raised in these states, that, you respect our, whatever treaties that might come out between Black Americans and all this other stuff. Because if you don't, then this can all turn backwards. And we already shown them that, we're not even fucking around. And I think that more of us that are Republicans, start presenting yourselves. I know some people, probably mistake me for probably a Democrat or something because I live in California, which is understandable. But, we need to start coming out and stop being scared of where we stand. We do stand for values. For what I understand, my uncle just told me a story because they were born in Los Angeles, and I guess it was the mayor of Los Angeles back during the time. He said he remembers that the guy was a Democrat, right? The mayor of Los Angeles, and the Democrats during the time used to be for conservative issues and programs and all the other stuff like Republicans today. And he told me that, from what he sees today is that that's not the issue. Like the Republicans that, used to be the Republicans in the 60s, 70s are not the Republicans today. And neither are the Democrats. And so, that's all part of what they call political sociology and stuff like that. But, I'm not going to get too much into that. You guys get the point. Like, the parties that, the reason why the, Black people are Democrats is because the Democrat Party used to represent conservative values, which we know that doesn't exist today, like from the 60s, 70s. And I don't know if there's other people that's older than me that can contest to that, but, that was a testimony that was given to me that gave me a different perspective on things, on politics. And so, that's why, I was able to come out and say, well, I'm, if the Republican Party is what stands for those same values, then that's what I am. Because it's not about the party, it's about the values that's held in it. And if that holds it the most, then that's what I'm going to stand for. And, that being said, as far as the Hispanic problem, like, you can have your majority states if you want. We don't care. give us ours. And for those of us that gave you that, you know, give us our respects, you know, if we decide to come back to our states and visit, because this is where we were born and raised. Like, you know, I was born and raised in Sacramento. I don't want to be able to come back to my home state, city, and stuff like that and be ran out by Mexicans. That will not happen by any means necessary. I don't even think the city would even allow it. But, you know, for some of us, the governor is right down the street. The federal agencies right down the street. The Indian Bureaus is right down the street. You know, there's a lot of things that is at our hands that we need to take advantage of. And so, you know, I'm just gonna, without just rambling on, just, you know, we got this. Like, we got this. We got to think strategy. And if it's something worth going forward to that's going to get us to the end point, just, you know, stay on that focus. Peace, power, reparations.
Peace, power, reparations. Peace, power, reparations. Peace, power, reparations. Peace, power, reparations. Okay, so there's a couple more stories. I'm just going to highlight some of these police encounters. This was in Louisville, and this is from the Department of Justice report. I guess that report is just full of a lot of terroristic activity by these different law enforcement officers in Louisville, Kentucky area. This was a story about the officer letting his dog attack a 14-year-old black child who was not resisting. As the dog gnawed on the child's arm, the officer said, "Stop fighting my dog." Not a video that I want to see, but just understanding.
Why are they stealing, like, you know, they claim that they have their own culture, but they take all our lingo. Okay. Get off my dog. Like, are you serious?
Well, here's something that's interesting to note. To go to the other side of that is, because they have been using these dogs as weapons in around the country, oftentimes these dogs end up getting killed because they're weapons, right? They either get stabbed or they get shot by the person that they're pursuing.
My cousin actually shot a police dog, and he got murdered in what's called in Orville. This was, man, what was this? This was like three years ago, I think. And time flies, but it was like 3 years ago. He shot a dog because they sicked the dog on him. Mm-hmm. So he shot the dog, and they murdered him. And you know, over a dog, it's just like, you know, shit. Like, what would you do? Like, you know, you're not. He wasn't breaking the law. It was a traffic stop. You know. He had a warrant, and instead of like they immediately just like brought the dog up to the person and just, you know, just doing things that it's just, if a person have a warrant, like, give them a ticket and say, hey, show up to court, make sure you come to court, or else blah, 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 blah. You just don't, if someone has a warrant and say, like, the warrant hasn't been, put out for like 2 years, like a 2-year warrant. You know, I've been arrested over a warrant that was over 14 years old.
Wow. They don't go away. They don't disappear.
You know, if someone didn't do the duty to settle the matter before, You just don't go and say, "Oh, you got a warrant, so we're just gonna manhandle you and stuff like that," without giving people proper warning. So when it comes to those type of things, we see how these things end up, and they will kill you over a fucking dog.
Yeah, not only will they kill you, but they are starting to enhance the penalties for killing these canine dogs. In the state of Ohio, this is back in 2016, they gave this person 45 years in prison for killing a canine dog. They consider these animals to be police officers, and the laws around the country are starting to recognize them as such. And so there is this connection to where you're supposed to be able to defend yourself, even from police officers, if they're doing something that's unconstitutional. I think you have a natural law that says that you have the right to defend yourself from death.
Due order. There's due order. Like, there's a process to how you do something, and they're not following the process. That's like I said, like if that's like Carolyn Bryant, right? That bitch that lied on Emmett Till, right? Somebody didn't want to put out that warrant for how many years has it been out? I can't even count because it was before I was even born. Okay, but with that being said, like they're just not gonna run up there and just manhandle the woman just because they're gonna say, hey, there's an outstanding warrant. We're gonna ask you one more time to appear, and if you don't appear, then they lay out a plan, right? That's due process. Get them in the court, then you make judgment, and then you sentence them to either to justice, whatever they did wrong, make it right. But if they didn't do anything wrong, you set them free. But you don't throw somebody in jail while they're going to court. Like, that's not process. Like, you don't throw someone in jail and then tell them they got to go to court and then let them go. Like, you don't even put somebody in jail if they even go to a court.
It's glitching now.
And so,
dang it. It's glitching now. Of course, it would start glitching.
How the system works, that's a big problem for people. And there are law libraries in certain cities and stuff. Look it up in your 311. See what free law libraries that you have, and look up civil rights. We have one in our city. I go to it,
it's locked in
diligently. I try to understand civics, and I try to understand legal laws, civilian rights, and everything else like that. But this is something that we have to take up as individual people, so that we can grow to be greater people. It doesn't do us good if only some of us only know these things, and then the majority of people don't. Like, we need to try to get all our people in understanding some type of basic level.
Absolutely.
What we're dealing with.
That's what we're trying to do.
Deal with it.
That's what we're trying to do.
Get everybody on the same page so that we can deal with this accordingly. That should be the main focus and task. But definitely these people are not following the law. They are breaking the law. There's they couldn't pay us back for reparations. They might as well give us back the whole country and everyone get out. I mean, in my opinion. But is that reasonable? We can do it. But it's going to be one hell of a fight.
Yeah, I'm reading a story, and this is in St. Paul. They is mistaken identity, which for whatever reason these fucking police can never seem to get the right person. This was a black male, Warren E. Berger. Oh no, I take it back. His name is Frank Baker. He was at the Warren E. Berger Federal Building. So they mistaken him for a robbery suspect. They put the dog on him, and I'm looking at his injuries on his leg. As it turns out, he was not the suspect. And so they ended up convicting the officer, not the dog, but the actual officer, to 6 years in prison for excessive force with a canine. This gentleman Breaker also won a $2 million settlement from the city of St. Paul. So that gives me hope that the 14-year-old that's caught up in this DOJ case, the family, because I mean, that's a child, compared to this man's an adult, but that child's family can actually sue. Dang it, motherfuckers. I'm so glad we got Rella in the space, man. Look at that. See that?
Black, you there? You the mic went me.
Yeah, they kicked me. They kicked me again.
Yeah, I was going to say, all of on your phone, even if you boost it up,
man,
and they just kick you out, the space will hold for 60 seconds. So just come right back up and see
the reconnect.
Like that or whatever.
Yeah, I think Miss Rella's account is locked in, and she probably can't come on the mic even if she wanted to. But I think that's what's been holding it, having at least the one co-host. And I tried to, like I did send it to that bar lord, but it's not doing what it's supposed to do. Oh, you know what? Let's see. It actually now it only shows her. So let me see what happens.
Oh, you ain't sleep well. I saw that 100.
Oh, she's up.
Oh, no, I took too much my time and shit. I want the itis.
Okay, it looks like okay. It just allowed me to send it to you. Maybe when I popped out and came back in, it reset it. So let's see if it actually comes out to you and you are able to take it. That's interesting. That's good to know. Drop out, come back in, it'll reset itself. But yeah, so hopefully,
So BJ's up here.
Yeah, he's bar lord. He's incognito. Incognito, as they say. I tried to send him a co-host, but I don't know if it's going to let him get it or not.
Been acting crazy, but I do see. Shout out to is that Professor's account? Or is that his real account down there?
Shout out to Professor in the building. So, man, this is such a tragic story. I've been trying to avoid it. People have been posting it, and it's a very tragic story. So this young black man's name is Rasheem Carter. He was found decapitated in a city in Mississippi. The police are saying that there was no foul play in this particular incident. There's other more graphic descriptors of what he was found in. But they're saying that he had warned and or at least alerted his parents to the fact that a group of white men had been following him previous to this occurring.
I do have a little bit of insight into the situation, and I do kind of warn that, we probably shouldn't be discussing that situation because it's very sad what happened to that individual. But let's not let all of our tragedies, turn into conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Because, when you're dealing with those type of situations where when you get lost in the woods and you're stranded out there for days and you're tripping out of your fucking mind, because I've seen people go through these type of situations, but definitely somebody set them up to be in a bad situation. And in most cases, when you talk about beheading somebody, from the evidence that some people were able to see and what really happened, animals do have a tendency of gnawing off the head first before getting to the rest of the body. This is seen in many situations in animal attacks.
But the company, the only thing is his body parts were found in different places.
Animal attack?
Animals
consume.
They will scatter.
They consume.
But not strategically.
Not strategically.
Exactly. And his head, his skull, was solved. Clean off.
Damn.
I don't know about that part.
When his mom, I listened to the interview.
Damn.
When his mom was talking about it.
But the whole face was like clear, straight down to nothing.
Yes, because hogs, because that's what hogs do.
Damn.
And at the end of the day,
without breaking things, because hogs will eat your mouth out, break the teeth, all that. Like the mouth is still intact.
All I know is they saw him on. They caught him on a
lot of things.
They caught him running through the woods without his the clothes he had on when he went to the police department on a deer camera. So I do believe he was hunted.
Damn.
I do believe that that is probably a sundown town he was in, and I do believe that his employer had something to do with it.
Damn. Yeah. So
I don't know. I lived in California. I don't even really go hunting like that. But I've taken classes, classes in some forensic biology work. But looking at same situation, looking at the torso removed from the head. Just it just looks like it was just eaten out and torn out or something. I do believe animals did get to the body, but look how cold it was out there too. How long was he gonna last walking out there and somewhere where he probably didn't even know where he was even at, walking around in circles for who knows how long? They probably sawed it off after he died. They probably know the terrain, but I do believe he was set up. That's just not normal for people to go out there wandering around all by themselves, unaccompanied, just for no reason.
Can I just step in here?
I'll leave it at that.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, Ralph. You woke now?
Yeah, I'm up now.
Okay. I don't care. Animals probably did get to his body after the white boys threw it out there. That man, the father of that child, came in and showed a box. He said they delivered a box of bones to me. So what did the police do? Well, go out to all the different places where the bones were? They were scattered everywhere, and the police just so happened to know where the bones were. Come on now. Here's what I know for sure. If it don't make sense, it ain't the truth. The top of that boy's cranium, skull, was sawed off. Ain't no animals out there with no saws. That we know for a fact.
Amen to that.
Here's what else we know.
Damn.
He called his mama and said some white boys was after her. Whether he was on drugs, off drugs, it don't make no difference.
Right.
These people are murderous, and they're beasts, and they're demons, and it's evil. And if they catch you out there walking in woods and you are free black in America, you got every right to step where they step. That's what the ancestors fought for, wasn't it? So they can go. We could go wherever we want to. And you mean to tell me it's 2023 and white folks gonna tell us we can't do that? And now we can't even have our kids in our own neighborhoods without them choking us out. No, white boys did it. The beasts. That's who did it. And yeah, the animals got to them after the fact. I'll leave it there.
See, I feel like I live in a world where, you know, like you look at these stories and you're like, you know, why the fuck would somebody do something like that? Or who ends up in these type of like, you know, what? Like, it's just... I wish somebody had words for me right now, but it's just... You know, it's just...
It's evil. You're going to explain evil.
Yeah, it's just...
Explain evil.
Because I don't have that.
It's evil. It's evil. That's who did it. Evil. Nothing else needs to be said. What else you got to understand? Why am I going to sit around and explain and understand evil? It's evil. Ain't but two ways you can go in this world. That's evil. And you got to get that, and you got to get it quick, because time is wasted. We ain't got much time. Y'all can't see how they moving it faster? Come on now. Handcuffing 4-year-old boys and putting them in police cars. Black. Choking out 13-year-old boys. And then killing them in the woods. What they do with Ahmaud Arbery, you didn't see them run him down and shoot him. He was jogging and in the neighborhood. In Atlanta.
I saw that.
Okay, that's evil. It's evil. Those are the same people that's out there in the woods. Whether it's an urban environment, whether it's the police, anybody who does that to a person is evil. And that's it. Nothing else needs to be said about it. I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually seen people... I've seen people hang themselves, or apparently they hung themselves in trees, right? I've seen, like, people that apparently they wanted to end their life and jump off of a bridge into a canyon. I mean, we've all seen such horrific things, and it's like, you know, it's just overwhelming. Like, how
I don't know where's this shit happen? You got tossed, man. They tossing folks up out of space, tossing folks up out of the room.
It's almost like,
permanently,
you know, like the whole world is asking us to solve, like, be saviors for the world, but we can't do that. We can't do that. Like, we can't. This is not the time to try to put the cape on and say we're going to be the super people of the world. Like, we can't be those people right now. You know, I'll just land right there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not. We really ain't here to save the world. We're here to save Black America, and Black America only. Strictly, that's where all of our energy should be focused on. in the Jumbotron, and I think I put it down in the chat, Black American Homeland has reissued his book. It is coming very, very soon. It's called The Black Paper, Black American Homeland. I believe it's going to be available in digital form and in paperback form. So please be on the lookout for the Black American Homeland book. And then so I got two clips from this Asian woman who's explaining why so many Asian businesses are owned in the Black community. And she kind of goes into how right after in 1964, Black Americans got our civil rights reasserted and recognized, that they brought the Asians in with the Naturalization Act or whatever they called it. And immediately they centered themselves in the Black community in order to extract resources out of the Black community. And so she does a pretty good job with that understanding. I've actually seen a few more videos, so I don't know if this is her only topic, but these videos are floating around where she kind of is breaking down how Asians are using Black America and harming Black America. But there's one point in the first video that I saw where she talks about how the Asian community could help train Black people in how to operate businesses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then possibly put them in a position of management over these businesses that Asians actually own. And that's where I had to disagree with her.
They've been working.
One second. So